First of all, I want to apologize for taking such a long break from uploading content. There was the holidays, starting a new job, and then a lot of sickness in my family, but that's not why you guys are here. We're here to talk about Lord of the Rings, so in this video, I'm going to talk about two big changes that have recently hit the game. Number one deals with Haldir and his unique item, and number two has to do with a major change to Tactics Evolved with the nerf to Rise Up. Let's get into it. Alright, first up we will talk about Haldir. This was one of my favorite commanders to talk about. I've used him quite a bit in the past. One of the guys in my fellowship has an absolutely fantastic Haldir. I think I've made 2 videos about this commander. And unfortunately, I have to say that he's probably pretty much dead in the water as far as a viable tier 1 commander goes. And that's because his unique item, the March Warden outfit, was pretty much gutted in one of the most recent patches. So for anybody that doesn't know, the way that this used to work is this used to apply initiative to Haldir's Elven units on all tiles. So basically the way this tooltip used to be set up is it would say gain initiative, period, and then also say elves gain extra defense when battling on woodlands. Well, apparently it was some type of bug. I don't know why they decided to change it now and not just like fix the tooltip and keep it working the way it had been working, because Haldir was a strong, viable commander, but it's not like he was completely dominating the metagame like somebody like Sunind has currently been doing, like Gil-galad has been doing in the past, like the Witch King did when the game first came out. So now you're only getting the initiative and you're only getting the defense when you're on wood tiles. This is an absolute massive nerf to this item, and because of that, unfortunately, I can't really recommend him as a T1 commander that you should be investing in anymore. I think at this point, Faramir pretty much takes the cake, either Faramir or Dwalin. If you specifically want a T1 for their unique, I think on good side, Faramir's is now far and away the best. Dwalin is still an excellent T1 commander choice. It's just his unique isn't particularly amazing because a cleave axe, I believe, is going to be better in pretty much every single circumstance. All right, so the second thing that we'll talk about now is the massive nerf to the double rise up meta in Tactics Evolved. I'm just going to find a little battle scene to watch here. I'm not in Tactics Evolved, so I can't pull up the exact skill, but basically the way it works is if your army is composed of 3 different races of units, then your entire army and your commander were given a plus 15% damage increase once that elite skill was at 10 of 10. Now, the reason this was so powerful is because for good factions, you could have 2 units with the Rise Up skill, and it would stack. So in effect, that was a 30% damage increase to your commander and to your entire army. And what people would do is you would do 1 command of Sentinels, 1 command of Cavaliers, and then 73 command worth of Guardians. And in effect, this would give somebody like Dwalin, Gimli, any of these like Dane, any of these big damage dealing commanders, they would be just getting plus 30% damage for the entirety of combat, and you pretty much didn't lose anything because you're only sacrificing 2 points of command for a 30% damage increase. Obviously, that's ridiculous. Well, now those units have to remain alive for the damage buff to take effect. So you can no longer just run 1 command because those guys are going to get wiped out in the first round of combat, and thus your damage bonus is gone. This is going to have some pretty massive implications for the metagame in Tactics Evolved, and I think because of this change, it's actually a campaign that I would be interested in playing again. My team voted to go to Rebuilding Glory after we played Tactics Evolved because we were just tired of every single freaking fight being a double rise up commander against a double rise up commander. There weren't really that many extra other viable commanders, and I think this is going to really breathe some new life into the Tactics Evolved metagame, and I hope that this change also propagates to other types of these skills in the future. I don't really want to complain that much about balance. I try to avoid that in general because I think everything in this game does have a counter somewhere. However, I think you would have to be a little bit disingenuous to say that Sunind is a perfectly balanced commander. So I would really love to see this type of change also be applied, at least to some extent, to her as a commander. I think she would still be quite powerful and quite viable. But the fact that she can get away with just a handful of an evil man frontline and then like 70 command worth, 60 command worth, whatever it is, of arbalests, just that combination in her damage output is a bit over the top, it feels like. And in my opinion, it's really brutal towards low spenders and free-to-play players that might not necessarily have whale gear like a fully refined tactical maneuvers mithril coat to help counteract her early round strength. So just as a final thought of this video, I think it would be pretty interesting for the metagame of this game and just for the commander balance for any and all of those skills that require units to be alive in order to provide a buff, or I should say any skills that require units to be present in order to provide a buff to their army. I think it would be interesting if just across the board they were all changed, that if those units die, that buff is no longer in place. Sunind is the obvious example. The half-elven commanders might be another example of that, but there are other commanders like that out there. So just as an interesting final thought for the devs, that might be a pretty cool change to the metagame. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching.